Rabbit, rabbit.
Rabbit Rabbit. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Orlandi, and with me is Amit Parikh. Amit and I are senior consultants with Quest Software, and we offer up this podcast delivered the first of every month, hence the name, and discuss topics relevant to the IT industry with an emphasis around database performance. It's good to be with you again, Amit. I hope you and yours had a great Thanksgiving.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving weekend, with full of the trimmings, nice food, turkey. We had some great sides. This time it was just more of our immediate family, but nonetheless, the neighborhood, it was great. The weather has been really, really good here in Dallas, and we're just enjoying the holidays. How about you guys?
Yeah, had a fantastic Thanksgiving as well. Went up to Washington, D.C. with my family and looked at some schools with my son. And it's probably my favorite holiday, quite honestly. It's just a relaxing time to be with family and indulge a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, for us, we usually pick one of these holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or the Christmas holidays, to go out and travel. But for us, it was just more of resting and relaxing. But whether you're traveling to DC or you're doing what we did, quality time with the family. I think that's really what it's all about, right, Dave? I mean, I think we both can agree that we have much to be thankful for.
We do. And you remind me of a story. It's pretty funny. I'd like to share that. So last year during the pandemic, we were all remote, right? We all stayed separate, socially distanced, and so we decided to have a Zoom meeting amongst the family and their different locations, and it was nice. We were chatting and having some laughs, and then all of a sudden, one of my relatives clinked her glass and very abruptly said, "Okay, let's everybody go around the call and say one thing that we're thankful for." And it was just it was really funny because there was a good 2-3 second pause because she had taken everybody aback a bit, and then followed by just big laughter by everybody. So it was great, but honestly, as maybe cheesy as it sounds a little bit to you know reflect on what you're thankful for, I think it is a good thing to do and think about what are those things that in your life that you're happy about and that you are thankful for.
I agree, and that's why I strongly defend the holiday. In fact, just a story of mine. I mean, just down the street, as I was passing through, it was good to see someone with an inflatable. It was probably a 10-foot inflatable turkey that was sitting out there. And what they're doing is they're sort of defending the notion of, hey, let's just wait and celebrate and giving thanks for a second before we skip on to, the rest of the winter holidays, including good old Christmas. So I'm with you. And yeah, looking back, there's much to be thankful for. I think both of us, working for Quest, but, also selfishly, being part of something very exciting, right? There's just so much changes that have been taking place within technology, especially, over the last 2 decades when both you and I have been in our careers. It's really nice to be able to, in all facets, look back and give thanks without being too cliche.
Sure, and to kind of answer what you were asking, what I might be thankful for, that might be at the forefront, which is I'm very pleased with the point in the career that I'm at. I enjoy working at Quest Software and the people certainly more than anything. But looking back in the '90s, I worked for Toshiba, and I was in consumer electronics, and kind of got my hands dirty in technology there, rolling out the very first DVD player and geeking out about the 650 nanometer red laser. From there, I moved into software. I was with Embarcadero Technologies, and again, to your point about everything's evolving and changing, I joined this company whose CEO was very forward thinking and knew that companies and environments would be changing from single platform environments to multi-platform. So Embarcadero developed and marketed cross-platform solutions, Rapid SQL, DB Artisan, ER Studio, and that was really exciting. So I was thankful, or I am thankful for being in technology and really, just surrounded by all things data.
Yeah, data is interesting, isn't it? We talk about, trying to pick the right field or the right pursuit. Ultimately, you want to be in a place where there is, generally going to be, some innovation, right? Looking at it from a technology standpoint, there's some innovation and growth. And I think with data, you can say both very, very confidently. I think for me, it was a very similar story, right? There was an adjacent industry that I was in that sort of led me into data. It was in the automotive industry. So when I started working, it was in Y2K, and I guess there were some projects finishing up in the late 90s where anybody that had a little bit of a development background could participate. So I thought I would be a developer, a software developer, some sort of developer, but not necessarily because it was about the data. For me, it was more about the user experience. But what I quickly found out is, and part of this was joining Quest, but there was this common denominator, right? Wherever you go, whatever application, and Dave, we deal with this a lot. The data is the nucleus, right? Data, if it performs poorly, guess what? The application is going to suffer. If you don't have the right data, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to make the right decision. So what I think both of us saw, whether it be through consumer electronics or through software development, was that data was at the heart of all of that. So yeah, I mean, when I give thanks and when I look back, especially now that I've been working for over a few decades, data has been really, really important. And I think that's yeah, it's just it's sort of, it's great to know that it's something that is only going to be bigger and more exciting as we move forward.
I mean, think about all the jobs that have been created and all the careers that have flourished as the result of data, whether it be collecting the data, harvesting the data, manipulating the data, or analyzing it. There's so many directions that data has taken the economy and the opportunity around it. I guess I'd just say I'm happy to be on that data train. What a long, strange trip it's been, right, Amit?
Well, it certainly has. I mean, the journey itself is really just as interesting as the results that are coming from it. I mean, look at what Quest does, right? We are a tools vendor, if you will. I mean, some will call it solutions, but at the end of the day, it's really tools. And so there are so many things that need to be done in and around data. So when you talk about harvesting, for example, a number of relational platforms were brought into the mix, such as Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, and then as you've carefully observed over the past few years, and we sit very close to, now we're seeing that paradigm shift, sort of where data sits.
We certainly have these conversations daily, not just on this podcast, right? And I think recently when we were talking, you made a really good point to our product management, actually, that we really need to be thinking that data is a product in and of itself. You actually turned me on to some really compelling works of the author and technical thought leader, Zhamak Dehghani. He shares that idea as data as a product and that need to shift from centralized data, pushing the responsibility to specific business units that directly work with that data. Bust those data silos being created as a result, right? By treating the data as a product, it includes keeping the data accessible and sharing that data. And so it was pretty cool to hear you socialize the idea internally, just like we do with our customers. So that's the data democratization that we discussed in our last session, creating that faster time to value of the data.
Absolutely, Dave. It's definitely shifting right before our eyes. What we're seeing is this explosion and growth in the way that data is being consumed around the world. And with the democratization of this data, as you had mentioned earlier, and what we've talked about in our previous podcast, along with the advances that are taking place in technologies that are supporting AI and ML, the shift has now focused towards much more accountability and responsibility the closer you are to the data. And that is the line of business or the end user, the consumer of that data. And what's interesting is if you do a Google search out there in just what's sort of exciting and coming ahead in terms of careers in the world of data, it sort of resonates. You'll see that data scientist is the top leading career choice. But then you also have engineers and scientists for machine learning. You have architects and folks that are working in development on the application side. So, if I were to be thankful, definitely very excited about what's not only taking place currently, but where things are headed inside of the world of data. And it's definitely something that I want to be part of. I don't see myself getting off of this tour anytime soon. It's very, very exciting.
Well said, Amit. Well, thanks to everyone for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Rabbit Rabbit podcast.